Understand what I mean by unit, boys and girls? When physical quantities are measured, then that time during the measurement of that physical quantities are compared with other standard quantities, and that other standard quantities whose value is known by us, right? That physical quantity, that standard quantities are called as units. Example of unit: kilogram, gram, degree Celsius, Kelvin, dyne, right? Newton, meter per second, meter per second square, or meter second minus first power meter seconds minus second power. These are the units. Clear? Write down this. Very easy. Okay. Now, boys and girls, next point. These physical quantities are divided into two categories. On what basis? On the basis of their magnitude and direction. Magnitude means how much? Means any physical quantity which is counted by us. During counting, we say that how much it is. For example, how much is the mass? How much is the length? So that how much means its magnitude. How much means magnitude. Magnitude हमें क्या बताता है? Magnitude of any physical quantity shows us how much that physical quantity is. Right? And there are certain other physical quantities are also there, which are not fully expressed by its magnitude only. कि भैया कितना है, इससे मतलब उससे पूरा उसका मतलब मीनिंग नहीं प्राप्त होता है. To get its 100% meaning, we require its magnitude as well as direction also. Some physical quantities are completely expressed by its magnitude only, and some physical quantities are expressed completely by its magnitude and direction. So on the basis of this magnitude and direction, physical quantities are divided into two types: scalar quantities and vector quantities. So boys and girls, physical quantities are divided into two categories. Are divided into how many types? Two types. On what basis? On the basis of magnitude and direction. Physical quantities are divided into two types. On what basis? This classification is done on what basis? This classification of the physical quantities, it is done on the basis of magnitude and direction. Which are that? Scalar physical quantities and vector physical quantities. What do you mean by scalar quantities? The physical quantities, scalar quantities क्या होते हैं बच्चों? Scalar quantities are the physical quantity which can be expressed completely by its magnitude only. Direction is not required to express them. These physical quantities are expressed completely by its magnitude only. Such type of physical quantities are called as the scalar quantities. So write down here. Physical quantities which can be expressed completely by its magnitude only. To express them, direction is not required, are called scalar quantities. Example of the scalar quantities: mass, density, speed, distance, etc., etc. These are the certain examples. Miss here, what do you mean by distance? Distance is actual path traveled by a body. Suppose I have started my journey from this point P and I travel north direction, northeast, east, south, southeast, right, east, south, west, west, east, sorry, west, southwest, right, then northeast, northwest, sorry, northwest, and I came just finally here, just मान के चलो यहाँ पे आ गया. How I travel? North direction, northeast, east, south, right? Then south, east, here, east, south, west, clear? This is northwest, then north to west direction. This is point Q. This is my final position. So here, how much path I travel? This much. And this path which has been traveled by a body is called as a distance. Direction, so many times I change, but here direction doesn't play any kind of role. Here, in this condition, while measuring distance, direction does not play any kind of role. भैया आप डायरेक्शन किसी भी डायरेक्शन में जाओ, total path travel by a body, that is called as a distance. So direction is not required. So how much distance I travel? मान के चलिए, how much? 500 kilometer. This 500 kilometer is magnitude. So the distance travel by myself, that is how much? 500 kilometer. This 500 kilometer, it is magnitude, and by means of this 500 kilometer, that distance which has been I traveled, it is completely known, it is completely expressed. So that's why distance is scalar quantity. Because all the scalar quantities are completely expressed by their magnitude. Direction is not required. Direction की जरूरत होती है कि बच्चों? नहीं. Now vector quantities. What do you mean by vector quantities? Vector quantities are the physical quantities which are expressed by its magnitude and direction. Means to express vector quantity, we need its magnitude as well as we must know its direction also. Without direction, we can't get the value of vector quantity, or without magnitude, by means of just only direction also, we can't get the value of vector quantity. So to obtain the complete meaning of that vector quantity, or to obtain complete value of that vector quantity, we must know its magnitude as well as direction. So what do you mean by vector quantity? The physical quantities or just physical quantities. Physical quantities which are expressed completely by completely by its magnitude and direction are called as vector quantities. Understand what do you mean by vector quantities? The physical quantities or the physical quantities which are expressed, means the physical quantities whose meaning is completely obtained by its magnitude and direction. Means to express completely physical quantities, we require its magnitude and its direction, both magnitude and direction दोनों की जरूरत होती है, are called as vector quantities. Example: velocity, displacement, acceleration, force. These are the example, few example. These are the few examples of vector quantities. See here, boys and girls, how displacement is differ than distance. Distance is a scalar quantity. Distance is scalar quantity, while displacement is vector quantity. Displacement is vector quantity. What is the difference between these two? See here. What is the definition of distance? Actual path travel by a body. लेकिन ये डिस्प्लेसमेंट अलग होता है बच्चों. What is mean by displacement? How we can define it? डिस्प्लेसमेंट क्या होता है बच्चों? शॉर्टेस्ट डिस्टेंस between final position and initial position of a body. Clear? See here. What is distance? Distance means total path travel by body. फिर वो कौन से भी डायरेक्शन में चला जाए, एनी डायरेक्शन में, नो नीड ऑफ डायरेक्शन डिस्टेंस के लिए, किधर भी चला जाए, एक्चुअल पाथ ट्रेवल. Now here in this condition, here, see here, I travel 500 kilometer like this in this direction. So my distance, the or sorry, the distance traveled by me, that is 500 kilometer. But if we will try to find out my displacement in this condition, then that time, this is not the shortest distance between point A and point Q. Point P is my initial position, point Q is my final position. ये दोनों पोजीशन में ये शॉर्टेस्ट डिस्टेंस है क्या? नहीं. Is this shortest distance? No. Is this shortest distance? No. Then how we can get shortest distance between point A, point P and point Q? How we can get shortest distance? बोलिए, boys, girls, how we can get? If I traveled straight from P to Q, थोड़ा सा भी मुझे ऐसा नहीं चलना पड़ेगा, like this. Is this shortest? So what curve are there? It is not straight. Is it straight? ये straight नहीं है बच्चों. Then to move straight, I have to go in a particular direction. Without changing that direction only, I can go like this. See here. I will use this thermometer as a scale, boys and girls. Look here. To move straight direction, मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा? यहाँ P से मिनिमम डिस्टेंस उसी डायरेक्शन में मिलेगा ना. If I will move from P to Q in a particular direction, वो पर्टिकुलर डायरेक्शन कैसे जाएंगे हम लोग? See here, look here. स्ट्रेट जाना पड़ेगा. Straight in this particular direction. If I move from P to Q, then that time only I can go straight. I can go straight. Miss, then that time only we will obtain shortest displacement, shortest distance. ये distance भी है बच्चों अभी, and this is a displacement also. What do you mean by distance? Actual path travel. अब यहाँ पर actual path travel P to Q, this one. So that is why ये distance भी है. Why it is displacement? Actual path travel in a particular direction. Shortest distance between P and Q. Shortest distance P and Q means I have to travel this distance in a particular direction straight. थोड़ा भी मैं इधर उधर नहीं हिल सकता हूं. Can I swing little bit here and there? No. I have to move in a particular direction, means straight forward. Then that time only I can achieve shortest distance. And this shortest distance in which I move in a particular direction. अब यहां पर मैग्नीट्यूड भी है. मैग्नीट्यूड मीन्स हाउ मच, मान के चलिए कि ये है 40 किलोमीटर. मैग्नीट्यूड कितना है बच्चों? 40 किलोमीटर in a particular direction. When I move 40 kilometer from P to Q in a particular direction only, then that time only I can achieve minimum distance between P and Q, or shortest distance P and Q. So to obtain that shortest distance, we have to move in a particular direction. So that is the displacement. So here magnitude 40 kilometer, it is also required, as well as direction, particular direction, ये भी required. So that's why displacement is a vector quantity. Displacement क्या है बच्चों? vector quantity. Displacement is a vector quantity. So here, these vector quantities, these are expressed completely by its magnitude as well as direction. As well as direction. Clear? Write on this. Next, physical quantities are also classified into two types. On what basis? On the basis of whether that physical quantities are depend on the other physical quantities to obtain their value or not. देखिए बच्चों, हमें किसी physical quantity को obtain करना है. When we try to obtain its value, then that time whether that physical quantity it is independent or to obtain its value, we have to do calculation between other physical quantities. Means other physical quantities, whether they are involved obtaining or while expressing that physical quantity or not. On the basis of that, physical quantities are divided into again two different types. On what basis? On the basis of whether it depend on other physical quantities or not. On the basis of whether it depends on other physical quantities or not. On the basis of this, बच्चों, physical quantities are divided into two categories: fundamental physical quantities and derived physical quantities. Fundamental quantities and derived quantities. Fundamental quantities and derived quantities. What do you mean by fundamental quantity? Fundamental quantities are the quantities whose value it is, or the value of its unit, or whose value it is fixed by a scientist. To express them, we did not do calculation in between other physical quantities, or to get the value of this fundamental quantity, other physical quantities are not involved in it. These are independent. Their value, it is fixed. The value of their unit, it is fixed by the scientist. But derived quantities are the quantities whose value is obtained by doing some calculation between other fundamental quantities. Finally, fundamental quantity के ऊपर ही आता है. This fundamental quantity से ही हमें ये derived quantity मिलती है बच्चों. Means to obtain the value of unit of this derived quantity, we have to do the calculation between other physical quantities. Finally, derived quantity, ये fundamental quantity का ही calculation करना पड़ेगा हमें. So these are derived means obtained by doing calculation between other physical quantities. These are independent, but these quantities are depend on the other physical quantities. So that's why they are called as a derived. So here, what do you mean by fundamental quantities? these quantities are independent, right? Value of its unit is fixed by scientist. To obtain the value of their unit, other physical quantities are not involved. To obtain value of units of fundamental quantities, other physical quantities are not involved. ये सेपरेट है बच्चों. इसकी यूनिट की वैल्यू ऑब्टेन करने में किसी भी अदर फिजिकल क्वांटिटी के यूनिट का कोई इन्वॉल्वमेंट नहीं है. These are called as a fundamental quantity, and there are 7 fundamental quantities: mass, length, time, temperature, electric current, amount of substance, right? Amount of substance, then luminous intensity, electric current. These are the 7 fundamental quantities, which are that examples here: mass, length, time, temperature, electric current. Then amount of substance, luminous intensity. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and luminous intensity 7. Right? What do you mean by derived quantity? These quantities, derived quantities, are depend on the other physical quantities. Derived quantities are depend on other physical quantities. Is to get the value of unit of this derived quantity, we have to do the calculation between other physical quantities. Means other physical quantities are involved to express these derived quantities. Other physical quantities are involved to express derived quantities. Example derived quantity के speed, velocity, acceleration, force. Why force is a derived quantity? What is value of force? Whatever it may be, जो भी होंगे तो. How it is obtained? By doing calculation. For example, F is equal to EMA. EM is mass into acceleration. F is equal to mass into acceleration. What is value of what is formula of acceleration? Final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time taken. When we do the calculation in between this physical quantity, then that time we get the value of force. Speed, भैया देखो, speed is equal to distance divided by time. Distance means nothing but it is one type of length. Length is a fundamental quantity which is divided by time. Time is also fundamental quantity. So when we divide length and time, length by time, then that time we get value of speed. We get, means that time only this speed is expressed. Means to get the value of speed, we have to do the calculation between this length and time. So that's why speed is derived from distance and time. Force is derived from mass and acceleration. Force is derived from mass multiplied by final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. अब velocity means क्या हो गया ये आ जाएगा, जो भी डिफरेंस आ गया फाइनल वेलोसिटी माइनस इनिशियल वेलोसिटी, मतलब वेलोसिटी डिवाइडेड बाय टाइम ही हो गया, कुछ तो भी जो भी डिफरेंस आएगा वो, राइट. वेलोसिटी इज इक्वल टू क्या? डिस्प्लेसमेंट डिवाइडेड बाय टाइम. वेलोसिटी इज इक्वल टू what? Displacement divided by time divided by this time. Displacement, it is denoted by letter small s. Displacement by time, displacement is nothing but it is one type of length. Displacement क्या होता है? देखो all values fundamental quantity कैसे आता है? Mass fundamental quantity. Acceleration is equal to final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. तो जो भी आएगा ये फाइनल वेलोसिटी माइनस इनिशियल वेलोसिटी, तो वेलोसिटी आएंगे कुछ तो भी डिफरेंस, वेलोसिटी का आएगा डिफरेंस. सो डिफरेंस ऑफ वेलोसिटी डिवाइडेड बाय दिस टाइम. नाउ डिफरेंस ऑफ वेलोसिटी, वेलोसिटी कैसे फाइंड आउट करते हैं हम लोग? डिस्प्लेसमेंट डिवाइडेड बाय टाइम. ये देखो ये मास एज इट इज मल्टीप्लाइड बाय वेलोसिटी. वेलोसिटी मींस डिस्प्लेसमेंट डिवाइडेड बाय टाइम डिवाइडेड बाय दिस टाइम. अब ये डिस्प्लेस मास ऑलरेडी फंडामेंटल क्वांटिटी, डिस्प्लेसमेंट इज स्ट्रेट डिस्टेंस which is a length means fundamental quantity. This time and this time already fundamental quantity, means finally this force which is a derived quantity, it is obtained by doing calculation between these fundamental quantities. So बच्चों इसका मतलब क्या है कि derived quantities जो भी होती है they are obtained just by doing calculation between fundamental quantities. और इसके ये 7 फंडामेंटल के साथ में बच्चों दो और derived quantity साइंटिस्ट लोगों ने फाइंड आउट किए, that is a plane angle and solid angle. SI unit of plane angle is radian, RAD rad, right? And SI unit of solid angle steradian. Solid angle क्या होता है? आप लोग आइसक्रीम का कोन खाते हो ना, आइसक्रीम खाते, वो कोन में होता है. That complete shape it is called as a solid angle. Clear? और plane angle तो क्या होता है? Just like this. This is suppose circle. This is a radius. We got this arc. This is a plane angle. ये एंगल जो भी आएगा ये प्लेन एंगल. और सॉलिड एंगल क्या होता है? ये आइसक्रीम का कोन, ये ऐसा आ गया. अब ये कहां पर आता है? ऑन स्पीयर. फुटबॉल लीजिए. दिस इज अ फुटबॉल. This is a center of football. On this football, this much area is suppose of 10, or we got this area. अब ये एरिया जो भी है इसका ये एंड पॉइंट यहां से कनेक्ट कर दो उसके सेंटर पे एट दिस पॉइंट. So we got this such type of structure which is similar to cone of ice cream. So this is called as a solid angle. This is called as a solid angle. ठीक है बच्चों? राइट. सो ये डिफरेंस देखा हमने आज. फंडामेंटल क्वांटिटी, डिराइव्ड क्वांटिटी, स्केलर क्वांटिटी, वेक्टर क्वांटिटी. देन व्हाट इज मीन बाय फिजिकल क्वांटिटी, व्हाट इज मीन बाय यूनिट. ठीक है ना? अभी स्लोली थोड़ा थोड़ा स्पीड बढ़ाएंगे बच्चे हम लोग. राइट. आपको काफी मजा आएगा. आज 9th के लिए हम लोग स्टॉप करते हैं. फ्रॉम टुमारो ऑनवर्ड्स विल स्टार्ट 10th स्टैंडर्ड लेक्चर आल्सो टुमारो और डे आफ्टर टुमारो. ठीक है? स्लोली. पहले 2 दिन पहले हमने 7th और 8th स्टार्ट किया. आज से 9th स्टार्ट किया. हो सकता है कि कल से या मंडे से हम लोग फिर ऑल लेक्चर स्टार्ट करेंगे. 7, 8, 9 एंड 10th. ठीक है? बाय. इस वीडियो को बार बार देखिए आप लोग. आपके पूरे कंसेप्ट क्लियर हो जाएंगे. और मेरे जो भी वीडियो जो है 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th के जो भी डालूंगा मैं ऑन YouTube. If you are in 10th standard, please watch the videos of 9th and 8th standard also. आपके पूरे मतलब जो भी कंसेप्ट है वो क्रिस्टल क्लियर हो जाएंगे. If you are in 9th standard, then please watch the videos of 8th standard. If you are in 8th standard, 7th के watch करो. 8th के तो करना ही आपको, लेकिन 7th के भी. मतलब आपका बेस कॉन्क्रीट हो जाएगा. एंड डेफिनेटली बच्चों मैं आपको बताता हूँ, हिंगोली डिस्ट्रिक्ट which is a small district, one of the smallest district in India, which is present in Maharashtra state. यहाँ से since from last 3 years, consecutively last 3 years, successively 3 since from last 3 years, मेरे पास से एवरी ईयर बच्चों बच्चों ने समझो फाउंडेशन क्लास किया, हर साल यहाँ से IIT का रिजल्ट लग रहा है. मतलब 10th स्टैंडर्ड तक बच्चे मेरे पास रहते. आफ्टर 10th, 11th और 12th कहीं पर भी करते. लेकिन जो भी बच्चे समझो मेरे पास कोई ज्यादा स्टूडेंट नहीं रहते. 9, 10, 12, 15, उससे 15 के ऊपर तो कभी नहीं है. पहले सेकंड बैच में तो 6 ही बच्चे थे. उसमें से पावर नैनो ने IIT मुंबई को लगे. पहले बैच में से 2 बच्चे. दिस ईयर आल्सो पार्थ झवर, राइट, 7896 एंड उसका EWS रैंक, ऑल इंडिया रैंक 960 है खाली. पहले बैच में वेदांत गोरे था, राइट, पवन शिंदे था. एवरी ईयर. नहीं तो हिंगोली में से 5-6 सालों में एक आधा बच्चा, कभी 8-10 सालों में लगता था IIT को. लेकिन ये कंटिन्यूअसली 3rd ईयर है बच्चों. MBBS तो हम लोग मतलब जब भी बच्चे हमारे पास आते तो हम लोग बहुत बढ़िया तैयारी करके देते. MBBS का रिजल्ट तो मतलब नीट का रिजल्ट तो कंपलसरी है हमारे पास. लेकिन आई एम टॉकिंग रिगार्डिंग द IIT, और वो भी टॉप 7 to 10 IIT के बारे में हम लोग एडमिशन के बारे में बात करते हैं. किसी अदर IIT मतलब रैंकिंग जो होती है उसका मोर देन 10 के ऊपर का IIT के बारे में हम सोचते भी नहीं. NIT के बारे में सोचेंगे तो पहले 5 NIT, या ट्रिपल IIT के बारे में सोचेंगे तो पहले 5-6 ट्रिपल IIT इंडिया में से उनका एडमिशन हम लोग कंसिडर करते हैं. और हम लोग उसी स्टूडेंट का नाम फ्लैश करते हैं जो मेरे पास ऑफलाइन था या जिसने ऑनलाइन एक्चुअली क्लास किए. किसी दूसरे का हम कभी नाम नहीं लेते. ओके, बाय, टेक केयर.